Testing? Perfect. Alrighty. Growing up, I often heard the phrase, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And while I was not a huge fan of apples, it did go to show the benefits of holistic, natural resources for the consumer. However, a big part of that holistic approach is also giving back to the planet that's giving us those resources. And that's something that Forest Essentials does extremely well. Hi, my name is Michaela Bianco. I'm thrilled to be here as part of Tacuba Consulting and to be here with my colleagues.
Haley Scheimer.
Now, to get right into things, we want to address the question that we were asked. So, with the current marketplace, should Forest Essentials focus on expanding internationally or staying domestic? For this, we completed a market analysis where we noticed that the Indian market is expected to stagnate. We also noticed that social media is extremely influential when it comes to shopping decisions, and we noticed that Gen Z and millennial influence is prominent in this market. From this, we created a three-pronged strategy. The first, which is enhancing our e-commerce presence. The second, which is supporting our brick and mortar growth in the UK. And third, being modernizing extraction processes to support sustainable scaling. From this, we'll see an increase in web visits, as well as revenue, and manufacturing equipment effectiveness overall. Now, for a quick company overview before we dive into the nitty-gritty, we did want to address that we're very value and mission-based, specifically focused on giving back to the planet that's giving us our resources. We have a diverse product line, and we have a very specific manufacturing process that begins with our own raw materials all the way through our extraction process. Now, for an overview of the global standpoint, we have a really strong hold in the Indian market. We also have recognized areas for growth whenever it comes to the UK and e-commerce space, and we wanted to consider some of the global market drivers and their impacts, specifically acquisition of green labels, established players entering our market, and the launch of inclusive brands. Now, back to the question that we were asked in the first place, we have three main areas of focus. The first one being how we're going to target our millennial and Gen Z audience, specifically through social selling, how we're going to increase our brand experience in those brick and mortar stores, specifically through establishing strong physical presence and product placement, and lastly, modernizing our extracting processes, which will allow us to be overall just more consistent, quality, and sustainable. We derived these after we realized our opportunity within the market, which is overall elevating Forest Essentials in the global arena, specifically focusing on our strengths, weaknesses, and those drivers in the market. Now, from this, we've created a three-pronged solution for Forest Essentials to use in order to get into that international market successfully. The first is going to be investing in the enhancement of our e-commerce site, supporting brick and mortar growth in the UK, and modernizing extraction to support sustainable scaling. I'll now be passing it off to my colleague Haley to discuss our first point of investing in the e-commerce space.
Thank you, Michaela. As Michaela just said, we'll be first talking about investing in the enhancement of our e-commerce platform. So with the emergence of e-commerce in the past few years and living in a post-COVID society, we have a huge opportunity to dive into new markets and broaden our customer base. As you can see, the e-commerce market is valued at $6 trillion, with 57% of consumers saying that they shop internationally. Looking more specifically at the market that we're in, beauty retail, we can see that our customers are buying these products through retail and also those specialty retail stores, through e-commerce and those specialty retail stores, which we've been focusing on heavily in the past few years. But we already have such a great, modern and efficient website, and we have an active following on Instagram with 270,000 followers. We will be targeting the social media influence through social media influencers. Right now, Instagram is the largest platform for brand affiliation or amplification with 58% of the market share, and they're doing $17 billion in MIV. So we have 4 different steps to target these social media influencers. First, starting with targeting. We plan to contract 50 influencers to post 5 times a year within the UK. Now we know the UK is a generally small region compared to the rest of the world, but social media as a whole is an international platform, and we know that these posts will have a global impact. Second would be to formulate. We want to work directly with these influencers to create posts that directly reflect their brand while reflecting our company values as a whole. We also will be deliberating compensation. And our third is to implement. We will be shipping these products to our influencers so that they can build these posts and fall in love with our products like we have since the beginning. And last will be to repeat. We want to continue to build this influencer profile while analyzing data collected through these individual website link clicks. Now, to implement this strategy, we need an internal social media marketing team. Within India, the average salary for this position is 750,000 rupees, and we would like to hire someone with at least 5 years of experience so they're able to carry out this strategy quickly. We would also like to hire in India, not just because it's more cost effective, but we hope that they will be able to work directly with the management and owners that are already in the headquarters in India. And 3 goals that we hope that this position will accomplish is that they will be able to connect with influencers, harness a positive social media attention, and create brand awareness. Next is compensation and deliverables. How will we be paying these influencers? We will be focusing on micro-influencers so we can watch their brand grow just as our business grew naturally. We'll be paying between $100 to $500 per post, as that's the market average, but we'd also like to compensate our influencers very fairly. And then this is some example of the sets that we will send based on the current trends and buzzwords within social media, such as hydration or acne. And this is an example of a set that has been sent to an influencer and the impact that it had on this company in sales. Lastly is our implementation timeline. I already discussed the steps within the next 5 years, but this timeline directly correlates with the timeline your business has to dive into new markets within the next 5 years. And at the end of it, we hope to evaluate results and broaden to more Western European influencers to continue to gain market control. Next, I'd like to pass off to my colleague Sean for the second prong.
Thank you, Haley. So now we'll be stepping into the second part of our prong, which is to support brick and mortar stores in the United Kingdom. Now, before we kind of get into the details, let's take a step back and let's look at our company's current initiatives for expansion into the UK. Right now, Forest Essentials has an initiative to plant 12 physical locations in the UK by next year. And they're targeting areas like London, Manchester, and Birmingham. These are high metro areas with young demographics as the main population present. We do know that the company saw a 17% decline in revenue from 2020 to 2021 in lieu of maintaining these stores. However, we want to emphasize the fact that this happened during COVID, and our market analysis shows that the Ayurvedic market in the UK is expected to rebound in a V shape, which is demonstrating the need to keep these physical stores present in the country. So, if we know that we have to keep these stores present, what's the best way that we can strengthen and support their presence? Well, let's start by evaluating some of the preferences for expansion we've had in the past. We know that we were able to capture a large market share in India through B2B expansion in hotels and through spas. We also are aware that we've been placing our products in hotels internationally, but this hasn't had any success translating to transactions in our physical stores. Now, once again, we are aware that the market is rebounding. It increased by 50% in the UK last year, and we know that we can take advantage of this by putting ourselves in multi-brand shops or pharmacies, but our creator, and more importantly, our customers, do not want our product on the same shelves as low-quality Ayurvedic products. This will contribute to the dilution of our company's prestige. So, why can we use Ayurvedic spas? Well, it's something we've done in the past, and in our market considerations, we know that Ayurvedic spas have an established presence in the UK. On top of this, if we consider what their customers want, 2 things we want to focus in on are that Gen Z is 5 times as likely than boomers to prioritize products focusing on sustainability, diversity, and inclusion. And this very same demographic is becoming increasingly aware of their health and wellness and is driving the uptick in spa usage in the UK. So, I know that Ayurvedic spas might seem like a pretty niche way to approach aggressively expanding into the international market, but this is actually something that we've seen other companies very similar to us do in the past. In 2019, we saw a company, Estetica, partner with Spa Vision to place their products on an international scale. First of all, Estetica started by providing products for use, but as customer experience quickly increased, they made these products available for sale in their stores, and now today, Spa Vision uses Estetica as the main product during spa consultations on an international scale. So, I know that this is great that this all happened, but what were the impacts for both sides of this? On one side, we saw SpaVision being able to adapt to a more inclusive driving force in the global market. Their director actually stated that by partnering with Estetica, they were able to tailor unique, more inclusive solutions for customers around the world. On Estetica's side, they saw a 13.6 uptick in unit sales during the 3-year initiative. And then ultimately, we talked about SpaVision pushing this to an international market, but also we should be considering the fact that SpaVision gave Estetica access to different kinds of spa clinics, wellness centers, and independent therapists. So looking at this from a general implementation standpoint, the first year is really about initializing these retailing relationships with spas that are located near our physical stores. After about the first year, we'll begin product placement, and after about a year and a quarter of product placement, we'll begin identifying the relationships that we think are the strongest to negotiate premium placement to cater best to our customers. I'll now be passing it off to Nate to introduce our third prong.
Thank you, Sean. For our third prong, we have modernizing extraction to support sustainable scaling through new raw material processes. Through this process, Forest Essentials is a leader in the Ayurvedic holistic industry. They have deep knowledge and natural and sustainable sourcing methods from single origin through sourcing products, as well as authentic branding. They believe in bioavailability and purity at the highest level from the luxurious market, however recently have implemented a strategy to gear towards more sustainable and eco-friendly push within core competencies. Knowing this, and knowing that Estée Lauder has a 40% stake within Forest Essentials, we want to leverage that by developing Lean Six Sigma, driving down costs, however, going towards those core competencies through DMAC implementation within Yellow Belt certification involving Lean Six Sigma. Through this, Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification will be implemented into one Indian plant and will be assessed and overlooked throughout the next upcoming years. But Yellow Belt is the entry level to Lean Six Sigma over towards methodology, and anyone that has a passion for overall learning is interested in this entry level. And it hones in on DMAC processes, which are again, the 5 essentials within Lean Six Sigma. It takes roughly 2 days to implement this within a manufacturing setting, also along the lines of 16 hours. Through this recommendation, we are also going to be recommending a digital monitoring system in the near future to develop real-time analysis towards eco-friendly pushes and driving down cost. Through the lean process, we will have a 15% decrease in overall operational cost, and our new raw material extraction will have a 25% increase in equipment effectiveness. That new increase in equipment effectiveness will be coming from supercritical fluid extraction, otherwise known as SFE the process. Through this process, we will be swapping in our normal raw material process through swifting within essential oils. This process will create an overall 10 to 60 minute overall implementation purpose through the method of producing these essential oils. Sesame, almond, and mustard oil are commonly used goods for raw materials within Forest Essentials. Through this method, we'll be putting them through a pressurization and heating method, within carbon dioxide being the solvent. Going back to bioavailability and ingredient purity, we will be heating these up to a very high level, which is concerning to some people. However, through the NIH, we have developed a very well understanding that this will not incorporate bioavailability decreases, as well as moving manufacturing and leveraging industry data within the supercritical fluid extraction process into our manufacturing plants in India. That raises an alarm for purity as a whole. However, we can rest assured, through that extraction process, we are taking care of the customer as well as the environment in a more friendly and kind way. For an implementation timeline, we will begin implementing the new extraction as well as Lean Six Sigma in the next 1 to 2 years and assess through the pilot program in the next 2. And now I'll be passing off to my colleague to talk more about alternative considerations. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, some alternative considerations that we did consider was intensifying domestic focus, strengthening Amazon's presence, expanding physical store locations, and reinventing manufacturing processes altogether. However, as you can see, this didn't really align in terms of feasibility, company objectives, and overall impact. Luckily, our solution is balanced between all three. Now, to move on to some of our risk mitigation, we do want to address possibly over-relying on a single platform, which we would mitigate through a diverse omni-channel strategy, as well as misalignment with the UK consumer preferences, which would be mitigated through extensive market research in the UK. Next, we have modern extraction methods affecting product quality or brand image, but this would be mitigated through strict quality control. And then we also have high initial capital expenditure mitigated by phased implementation as needed and overall benchmarking.
And quickly, we just wanted to go over some really quick financial impacts of our 3 recommendations focused on revenue and cost. More overall, we wanted to explain our ROI. In our first year, we will see an ROI of 120%, and then in year 4, we will have an ROI of 190%, and we expect that to continue to increase in years to follow. Thank you so much for your time, and now we would love to answer any questions that you have for us.
So, you talked about the value to the customer of the person-to-person experience, being able to touch and feel the product, hence the investment in partnerships with spas and brick-and-mortar stores. Yet, an e-commerce platform is at the top of your list. I'm struggling to reconcile those 2 things.
Yeah, if it's okay, do you guys have the, sorry. I'd love to walk you through our vision for how we plan on connecting social media and e-commerce to this physical store presence. And by doing so, let's take a look at a customer path to purchase with an example customer, Peyton. So Peyton's a 23-year-old young professional interested in his personal well-being and aesthetic. Okay, he wakes up Friday morning, he's late for work, and he realizes he has no facial cream. So he runs to work, he has no facial cream, he realizes he has this demand, and at work, he's scrolling through his phone, he sees a micro-influencer that he's following, he loves a lot, using this new kind of facial cream that Forest Essentials offers. Okay, so he might see this post, he might like it, but not much thought is probably provoked from that. There's only a 1.8% conversion rate on some of these posts. So, on his way home from work, then he passes by our store. He might remember the social media post, he might walk into the store, he might engage with our product, but ultimately, what we're going for is he's aware that the store is there, and he has more knowledge about how he can purchase it. The next day, it's a beautiful Saturday morning. He wakes up, 24% of Gen Z consumers are likely to try new spa therapies. So he goes to his local Ayurvedic spa where they use and sell our product. This is the first time he gets to interact with our product, and he loves it. On his way out, he buys our product and tells his friends all about it. But more importantly, if he has to buy this every time he goes to the spa, he's buying it at a higher price than if he just came into our brick and mortar stores that he's already interacted with. He can get our product cheaper there, and he's more likely to continue to use it.
And additionally, while stores have bounced back considerably since COVID, e-commerce really isn't going away anytime soon, especially with the younger demographic that we're going to be targeting. So that's ultimately why we wanted to take a multi-step solution that not only sets us up for brick and mortar in-store, but it's also going to make sure that we're covered on the back end with e-commerce.
Although I love this storyboard, was that part of the presentation or was that set up specific to this question?
It was pretty specific to that question, yes.
I should have. When does he work?
Well, it's a Saturday morning, so he's more focused on trying to enjoy his me time.
Well, he's Gen Z, what do you expect? So, great question. I mean, the case that we really talk about, so why are you using this? Do you think that's the target market?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
So, it's interesting that you brought up the mail using your product. There's no reference in the case about mail, so tell me more about that.
Yeah, definitely. There is no reference in the case about that. However, the case does reference that one of the major major drivers in the global market is inclusivity. Actually, we have statistics to support that males are continuing to use these products and are becoming more invested as well in their own personal health. As we did choose a male for this particular customer to drive home the inclusivity aspect, but this is open to a lot of customers. We try to keep this as general as possible to really drive home the vision of how these things can all interact with each other.
So let's unravel that, because I think it's very interesting that you're going after the male population here. So how big is this market? How much can you penetrate that?
I would like to stress that we are not particularly targeting the male market. From a broader lens, we are planning on targeting the Gen Z and millennial market. Something that our product, or that our company values itself on, is offering a diverse and inclusive range of products. One thing on our website, we have a section specifically dedicated to male cream. It's not necessarily it's not necessarily something we're targeting, it's just something that we're including as a general customer.
And to add on to that as well, within the Gen Z and millennial population, there's been a 35% uptick with Gen Z and millennials being interested in more of a vegan-friendly approach and cruelty-free perspective on the back of ingredient labels to assure that no animals have been harmed in the process and ingredients are quality and purity to the testing standards that they are put through.
what's happening in India all this time?
Sure. So let me get off of this really quickly. Can we click on the global presence? So at this time, we are currently the largest player in India, and one thing that our creator has expressed that she wanted to do is, before any sort of international expansion is establishing ourselves as a large player and then looking for opportunities to expand. At this point, we own 30% of the market. We are aware that there are some competitors who are driving, or we are aware that there's a threat of competitors from all different angles, both coming from internal of India and external to India. We think that, as we continue to pursue the Indian market, we're relying on our established presence and the customers that we already have there and the customer loyalty that we've already generated.
Additionally, our strong suit in India is the number of stores that we have and the physical brick and mortar attention that we have in India. So I definitely believe that while we are developing our e-commerce, which is applicable worldwide, that is going to be an area that naturally strengthens within India as we develop for other countries.
And throughout our pilot program with Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification, as well as a new raw material extraction process, that'll be in the manufacturing plant in India, that'll be outcasting to almost all of India throughout that pilot program with a supplementation internationally, so we can assess and rework our framework towards that to accommodate the market.
So tell me about how you're hoping to penetrate the spa market. Can you unravel that a little bit more?
Sure. So within the spa market, first of all, this is something that we've been able to do in the past, and we're really leveraging the synthesis between the Ayurvedic all-natural process and the Ayurvedic spas. So this is something that's kind of new and upcoming in the UK. We want to particularly target the Ayurvedic spas because those are the things that are going to be stressing the quality of, or stressing quality within the use of the products that they're applying to their customers, which is something that we believe we have the best of.
So how do you increase sales? Like, are you saying this to other people? Like, what are you doing?
So the idea is to place our product for use inside of these spas, and then we'll be placing it similar to when you go get a haircut at the salon, when you're going to pay afterwards and you're tipping the person who cut your hair. All the products that are sitting behind them, we would like for our product to be in a similar sense of that. We would like them to be placed in we would like to be able to take advantage of relationships over time to be able to negotiate best placement for these products, but the idea would be to have them in the store easily accessible so that as the customer is walking out, they can purchase the product, take it with them, and continue to drive their initial experience.
And along with our brick and mortar in the UK, obviously going into that spa, there's going to be more of a cost with the product that you are buying in that spa. However, rest assured, when you go throughout the UK, we have those brick and mortar stores. I believe it's 14 going in 2024. They can go to those stores after they've received the benefits of our highest quality Ayurvedic holistic treatment and then enhance customer branch further.
So other than the UK, you're not saying we're picking this country and that country. You're going to rely on your e-commerce and say, well, sales are popping up in country XYZ. Let's respond to that, perhaps start to build a presence more methodically.
Sure. So the timeline the timeline for the company's goals are within the next 5 to 7 years, they'd like to expand to 7 or 8 countries. So we thought that starting in the UK would be a great place to pilot our program. Excuse me, I'm going to run through all of this really quickly. To our slide that addresses this. So we did evaluate multiple areas. Ultimately, the UK is an existing place where we have, the UK is a place where we have an existing infrastructure. If we look at places like India, obviously we have an existing infrastructure in India, but the market's contracting by 32% over the next 5 years. And in the US and North America, we could start here. There's a lot of great prospects for this, but we mainly want to drive customers through e-commerce because we don't have an established physical presence in these areas. When it comes to providing omni-channel options for our customers, the best place to start is the UK, and I believe that it would also allow for more easy entry into the countries surrounding it. Also, could you repeat your question again? I'm so sorry.
You hadn't picked certain countries.
Okay,
we're going to go there.
Correct. Sorry.
We're going to respond to where business begins to flow based on your e-commerce.
And we're doing that based on the e-commerce because all of our customers prefer to go from single source origin, not through Amazon. We assessed the situation with Amazon and realized the capabilities of a 30% operational cost up front. However, prices would increase on Amazon and we would not have control of our entire supply chain. And knowing that our customers prefer to buy it from Force Essentials website, we want to keep it that way until the market shifts elsewhere.
And then also there is more flexibility with e-commerce. Overall, we did mention in the case that we have countries that we really haven't given much attention to, yet we have sales increasing. So e-commerce also provides a way to sort of focus on that market without necessarily investing so heavily in brick and mortar stores.
So this is a luxury brand, super expensive. How are you going to get a 23-year-old to buy this product versus the alternative, cheaper price products?
Yeah, so although this is a luxury product, our prices are very comparable with products that are very popular throughout social media right now. First thing that comes to mind is Drunk Elephant, which is a very well-known brand, at least for women, and our prices are very comparable. And so if we have these micro-influencers that people will trust, because it's more easy to relate with someone that doesn't have, the big platform with all the lights and the production. If they see a real person using this and they trust them, we hope that they will sacrifice a little bit more money to get a quality product that'll actually improve their skincare and well-being.
On top of this, we also have noted that, we did review in our analysis, we read a McKinsey 2022 article evaluating the Gen Z drivers. One thing that we did note was that earlier we touched on the fact that Gen Z is 5 times more likely to invest or engage with products that are driving at sustainability, inclusiveness, and diversity. Another thing that we know is that as people see, or as Gen Zers see these social influencers, as they see these social influencers using this product, it's something that they're more inclined to want to use, regardless of whether or not they might necessarily have adequate financial resources.
And I just sort of want to reiterate, because that sustainable and the values aspect definitely is really important to our brand. I mean, as an Ayurvedic company, that is sort of where we got started, and it's where we need to be going, because if we ultimately take away that quality and that sustainability, then that's our brand and that's our purpose and our mission and our vision as a whole. So that's definitely one of the points that we want to hone in on the most, and that's why we believe we would be successful with this specific target audience.
Yeah, all of you have done a really good job. I find some of your slides have just more than I can read at the speed at which you're moving. I like your strategy. You're not asking for $200 million to roll it all at once. You're thoughtful and you're cautious, and you've got time to fail and adjust depending on whether it works. I think it's a very sensible approach, and you did a great job presenting it.
Thank you.
I would agree. You did an excellent job. I think there's a few things that caught my attention. Number one is you found a brand and you studied that brand. Ascetica, is that what the name is? You studied that brand and you saw what they did, which is they went into the spa market. The spa market is an excellent way to get your product out there. However, it's not as simple as just putting your product on the shelf. You have to hire a sales manager, business development people, horribly expensive, and then you have to go into all these different markets. It's something to consider, but then you address the concern about the products and manufacturing those products, which I think that you get that really important. I wish that you would have expanded a little bit more about the male population. I think that's what is missing here. It was referenced that males are starting to use more of the facial products. It was a little bit interesting for me because a lot of the cases, a lot of the users were at least 35 years old. Some of them were even in their 60s. So to think that a 23-year-old might use the product, in my opinion, is a little aggressive. But to your point, I'm sorry, I think it was Nathan, or no, Sean. Sean, you said that it's about sustainability, so that's a good rebuttal to my objection. Nice job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I just want to